I am Dr. Vanessa Beecham, and I'm an assistant professor in biology at Towson University.
Stephen Lev, I am a geochemist.
My opinion on climate change is that it is definitely real, and it is accelerated by human activities that put carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the air.
My opinion on climate change. I don't know, it's something that you can have an opinion on. It either is or it isn't, and I think that there's pretty overwhelming evidence at this point that there is.
I think that the Chesapeake Bay is going to be very impacted, particularly by rising sea levels, because a lot of the area of the Chesapeake Bay is at such a low elevation. It'll be one of the first areas to be impacted.
Also reporting now from some of the outer reaches of the world, there is new research from both poles of the Earth that indicates an even greater sea level rise than was expected just 2 years ago. Climate change will bring as much as a 3-foot rise in sea levels by the end of the century. That's about a foot more than the IPCC's projection back in 2007. And Clean Air Cool Planet says this is what the Chesapeake Bay area will eventually look like as a result. You see those light blue areas growing? That is where researchers say sea levels will rise, an especially troubling analysis for the Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia coastlines.
People are afraid of some of the environmentalists out there because they pour all the money into campaigns. I actually believe that man-made gases cause global warming back when I was first the chairman of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, until we found out what it would cost us if we conformed with Kyoto. And so we thought, let's at least look at the science and see that it's there. And I can tell you right now that the scientists that were very strongly for it at first are not now. And you haven't heard much about it recently. So I think I was right on that, and I do believe, first of all, let's keep in mind, though, what the issue is. It's not whether or not we're going through a global warming period. We're not now. You know, God's still up there. We're now going through a cooling spell.
Please say your name.
Vince Scratch.
All right, and what is your opinion on climate change?
I believe there's a possibility that it is real, but I don't necessarily think that it's man-made.
All right, what's your name?
Nick Vanilla.
All right, and what's your opinion on climate change?
On a whole, the crabs are smaller. Every time I go out, every time I go crabbing, there's a lot more getting thrown back, a lot less going in my bushel. And that's I believe it's a 5.5 or 6 inch marks right now. I think it's a 6 inch. I'm off the top of my head, a little tool that measures it for me. But I have to say it's not good. We probably got a lot of pollution going on, global warming, all that kind of stuff. Probably not helping for the overall health of the crabs either.
All right, what's your name?
My name is J.T. Gwynn.
All right, and what's your opinion on climate change?
I don't really have an opinion. All I know is that it gets cold in the winter and it gets hot in the summer, and that's what I live by.
All right. Do you think that climate change actually exists?
I've heard it does. I personally don't, I'm not persuaded by the whole global warming or, yes, climate change does exist because climate does change. If that's the question.
What do you mean? What do I know about climate change?
You think it's real?
I don't know. I don't think so. That whole global warming shit, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe it's real.
Why not? You think it's natural?
It's not really much difference in climate here. Nothing has really changed.
Huh.
Well, that's a hot area of research right now, is trying to understand, especially sort of in the realm of environmental science, is trying to understand how climate change is going to impact all sorts of things. We're looking, I just heard a bunch of talks recently where people were looking at how climate change was going to impact the bioavailability of mercury, for example. So if you change the conditions in freshwater system where you've got more or less freshwater input or more or less dissolved organic matter coming into that system because of runoff due to changes in climate, you're going to affect the methylation process for mercury, which is what makes it more toxic. So there's a huge number of issues that relate to how climate change is going to affect the Chesapeake Bay. I think changes in runoff patterns is a big one, and how water from the watershed entering the Chesapeake Bay, the hydrologic cycle in general, is a huge issue, and there are a lot of other ancillary issues associated with that. I think it's a water issue primarily right now.
In the big picture, and this always comes up when you talk about environmental regulations and things like this and conservation biology, what we're really interested in conserving is us. I mean, there will still be things that can survive the climate change. It will just be a different world. And what we're really talking about, what it gets down to, is the system that supports us. And if we start taking pieces of that out faster than we can replace them or understand how they work.
Valuing the environment is something that's hotly debated. And you have to have vision, and you have to be willing to spend money where you apparently, or it's not clear that you need to spend money. And this is where there's very little and very poor communication between scientists and policymakers. Right? The policymakers are making policy decisions that are essentially devoid of the best and most up-to-date scientific information in a lot of cases, because scientists just don't communicate well with the policymakers. So, some of the decisions that get made now in terms of what we think is sort of cutting edge in terms of mitigating climate change effects is probably 6 or 8 years behind the knowledge base in terms of what we actually know. So there's a lag there. So investing in green technologies, yeah, it's a good idea. We probably should have been doing it for the last 20 years.
A lot of it is that people don't understand how to value natural resources, and that's a lot of it, is that people don't understand all the services that are being performed by the wetlands you might lose from sea level rise, or from the pollinator species that we have now that we're losing. And people don't think and see that big picture. And so it is important to be able to include all those costs, but it's really hard to get that across to the public.
It's relatively clear what we need to be doing, and you can't reverse climate change, but you can mitigate the effects of climate change, and that's really what we need to focus on. However, mitigation requires money and political will, and there is zero of that now. So if you do zero and you wait long enough, then yes, there'll be some serious effects, and we may not be able to recover as well as we might like to.
So we might want to start a program to get more people aware that there are problems in the bay.